Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I'm leaving.
Hello and welcome back. We are breaking up with RBS. This is episode number 32. And I'm Tawny Santabria.
And I am JDK Winnikin. We are here to debunk the junk yet again. All those BS stories that do not serve us or maybe have served us before but don't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
But we don't really need because they aren't reality. And we actually are hardwired to deal with reality just fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that feels pretty good to be able to deal with reality, doesn't it?
It does. And it is a practice. It does, we get challenged all the time. So it's not like, not like the skills ever go away.
Oh yeah. There's always moments in the day where we got to bring ourselves back to reality.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to all of you listening out there once again for joining us. If you're listening live, thanks for doing so. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, thank you so much for subscribing and for leaving comments for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you in advance too for sharing it with your friends. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel at Breaking Up with RBS, we've got our comfies on today.
Yeah.
Might as well be comfortable, right?
Might as well.
Yeah, I know. We're
We're dealing with BS and stuff, so we
might
as well
be
comfortable.
Right, exactly. So, yeah. So I'm feeling rejuvenated, relaxed, active. And last week, the reason I say that is because last week we finished off our discussion of uncertainty by talking about how sort of we're sort of wired or we've bought into this idea that we have to be stimulated all the time for there to be import in our lives, and that being still and calm and recharging feel boring by comparison. And we got to hit at the end. And so I figured let's keep going with that today. So let's talk a little bit about that, particularly in regards to the effect it has on our body and therefore on our mental state and the stories that we're telling. And if you're new to the show, one of the things that we stress all the time is that all these things fit together. Right? How we treat our body helps our mind. What we put into our mind helps our body. And what stories we believe and which ones we don't go a long way to affecting both for positive or for negative results. Right?
Yeah.
So,
or results.
You always make everything so much simpler. You see, like you cover in like 10 words what it takes me like 50 to get through.
Yeah. No, we just do it different, and that's okay. That's okay. Not one is better than the other.
Okay, if you say so.
Right.
Okay, so I won't make up a BS story about that.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about stimulation. So let's kind of get back to that. So expanding on where you were before, kind of remind everybody what we were talking about.
Right. So we were talking about how it's very exciting and it holds our attention to be stimulated with this problem or that problem or trying to figure this thing out or that thing out.
What's going on in the world.
Right. All the different things that might come flying at us, trying to make sense of those all throughout the day can be quite what feels to be energizing. Right. And it's great to be energized. We all like that. But if we're energized 24/7 or 20, let's see, minus 20 hours
a day.
Right. And we're only sleeping 4.
That's a lot.
Like that's a lot of energized.
Yeah.
And
hedge fund manager hours.
Right. And it's depleting.
Yeah.
Right. We don't need to be stimulated as often as we have access to being.
Yeah.
Right. And so then we learn or we learn that we can demand more of ourselves. We should be able to, here comes the bullshits again. We should be able to figure this thing out. We should be able to get enough information to know what's going on.
Yeah.
All of those pieces. And that's just the way we do our world right now. We've just been conditioned to believe that that's the case and then conditioned to do.
Right. And then if we don't, we call ourselves lazy or fearful or timid. We kind of denounce ourselves for that, or we're avoiding things or whatever, rather than give ourselves credit for the fact that we may actually be doing something that's really good for ourselves.
Yes, I think sometimes the whole way of having to overdo in these areas make us feel like we want to escape from it. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're not talking about escaping,
Correct.
right?
That's
We
a good
want to
point.
make
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
right? Because being present and in the safety system of the body is not escaping at all. It's actually being in reality in a way that's beneficial for the body.
Right.
But
And
yeah,
connecting with the sense of what you can do in a given situation, if anything, and being okay with whatever that answer is. Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean liking it. It just means it means being okay with it. I talked last week about how with the news, I'm very careful with how I consume it. And at some point in there, I have to decide to what degree is something that is happening in the world that I care about, that may have an effect on me in some way, shape, or form. To what degree am I going to let it be a part of my day, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever? What can I do with it? When I am present, it's much easier to see where those lines are
hmm
rather than overconsume. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to keep consuming, particularly news, right? I'm going to want to know more and more and more in the futile effort to give myself a sense of control over what's happening, B, a sense of control over my own feelings, and then hopefully C, that'll make me feel better. Yet it never does any of those things.
it doesn't make you feel better
Nope.
knowing more.
Nope.
What
Nope. Up to a certain point.
what does it make you feel?
More stressed. It kind of feeds the beast. I would just want more. Right. Okay. Well, that's not enough. So the problem isn't that I'm taking in too much. The problem is I'm not getting enough. Right. And the thing is, if somebody's tuning in right in the middle of that sentence, they're going to think I'm talking about taking drugs. Right? It's not enough. Right. Or having issues with food or anything. It's that same kind of mentality. The more I take of something, the more I pull in, no matter how harmful it might be, the BS stories that'll make me feel better. But it doesn't.
Mm-mm. No, because when is enough enough? I mean, that's like with anything, our attachments,
Mm-hmm.
although we become attached to them for a particular reason,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, yeah, I'm supposed to know
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can about what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do this, right? Become sort of as we continue on, like they become like I need to.
Yes.
And that difference between sort of
Ugh.
like this want and being somehow aware of, turning down the thermostat
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just having sort of like the what's the temperature gauge, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like the thermostat we can control,
Mm-hmm.
right? As opposed to if we're the I can't remember the name
I wish I knew
of
where
the
you were going.
temperature gauge, right?
Oh,
If I'm just like, then I don't have choice. I'm just as
if you're just
full
holding the thermometer over the fire.
or yeah, I'm just as full as what's coming at me.
Yeah, right. It
A-
determines your state.
yeah, if I'm a thermostat, then I can say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm getting too full here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not serving me right now."
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be helpful for me when I'm engaged with people I care about. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to turn that down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're not doing that because in order to do that, we've got to have more awareness
Correct.
of what's actually happening.
Right. And the options that we have. And
Mhm.
and a sense of prioritizing ourselves in that moment. You know,
Yeah.
to kind of put it in more personal terms. I used to, when I was in conflict with somebody or had a debate or discussion or something like that, I would want to keep talking until it was quote unquote solved.
Mm.
And I took it personally when somebody tried to reduce the temperature, right? Their own thermostat. And they'd be like, "Oh, okay. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" I mean, and it was the type of thing that I would just run over people with that rather than recognizing that, but also never recognizing that that wasn't helping me because I was walking out of those situations frustrated, angry, whatever it might be, and ratcheted up.
Mhm.
And of course, the danger in all of that is then what do I do to calm my body down? Stay up too late was a real chronic one for me, right? But it can lead to so many things. You
Mhm.
know, going to 7-Eleven at 1 o'clock in the morning is not a good idea for one's overall body health,
No.
right?
No.
And then, of
No.
course, there are plenty of worse things, right, that we can do and that a lot of people do.
Mhm.
And I think there's probably a lot to connect what we're talking about
Mhm.
to those types of abuse problems.
And why have we made solving so important? Like the most important thing is solving
Yeah.
something. What is that about?
Oh man, you ask me these tough questions.
I don't know, right? Like
I don't
what?
have the answer to that. But I can tell you that it is an important kind of assumption that we're supposed to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Because not everything can be solved.
Well, and why does why do things need to be like why does everything need to be solved?
Yeah. Why does everything have to have an answer? Well, it seems to me that if we tell ourselves the story that if we solve something, it'll cease to be a problem, or we'll fix this and we don't need to worry about it anymore. So the more we worry about it, the less we'll have to worry about it if we
Right.
solve it.
Right. And is the solving static,
No,
right? Does the solving solve for
no,
forever?
no, it doesn't.
Right.
And one of the things that I don't think coming back to our discussion of uncertainty, is one of the things that are really difficult for us, and I think about this historically, is for people to appreciate the law of unintended consequences,
Mhm.
right? For every problem, quote unquote, that gets solved, it introduces something unexpected, something new, right? That then can become a problem, or, creates a whole new set of issues. It happens all the time. Despite all the planning, despite all the studies, despite all the debates, despite all the talking heads, you can get those things solved, but unintended things come out of it. And it happens in our personal lives too. So that's uncertain. So that even when even if you do solve something and nail it, when you're done, you're going to look around and go, okay, well,
I still don't know what's going to happen
what's going to
next.
happen next?
And
Right.
so then it comes back to like, is this solving thing just again really stimulating?
Mhm.
Does it make us feel
Yeah.
like the wirings of like they're firing together and
Yeah.
we're excited and we're awake?
I think so. I think it's one way we tell ourselves that we're alive
Mhm.
and that we're doing something, that we're contributing, that we're making something of ourselves. Think of all those things. Those are all big messages I just put out there,
Yes, they
right?
are.
That if we do that, then we're making the most of what we've got, right?
Mhm.
And I can hear some people out there maybe saying, well, how do you motivate yourself? Or it's a way to drive yourself forward. It's a way to overcome obstacles. And I get that. And maybe there's a better mousetrap
Mm.
that's a little simpler. But it's
Mhm.
like you said last time, kind of stepping back and getting still, softening, getting into the body, recognizing what's happening in the body, kind of sounds boring by comparison.
I yeah, it's not as fast paced. We're not sort of like revved up.
Mhm.
We're not and then what do we do also? Right?
Oh,
That's the other thing is
do.
like, okay, I'm still. Now but I have all these things to do.
What do I do now?
What do I do?
Okay, tell me how to get still so I know what to do next.
And here's the thing, like, okay, so we can all agree that if we're thinking, ideas come to us.
Sure.
That happens sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes it doesn't,
Yeah, flood
right?
ourselves
Yeah.
like flooding an engine.
Mhm. When we get in the body, information comes to us,
Does.
right? So if we can see this stillness
Mhm.
or these moments of being in the body as space for information to come to us,
Mhm.
underneath the thinking space, then maybe it wouldn't be so boring. Or maybe it wouldn't be all for naught,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Well, it makes sense. We've been talking about for a few weeks now, and most of us understand the relationship that whatever we put into our brains, information wise or whatever, has direct effect on our body response. We have
Mhm,
no trouble with that. It also can work the other way, is what we're suggesting. What if you get into the body first
mhm.
and let that kind of work upward instead of like the mind first and then cascading down to the body? What about the body first and then moving up into the mind? Right? It does work that way. It's all interconnected anyway, whether we know it or not. And that's sort of the sweet spot with the central nervous system and getting into that safety system, the ventral vagal, is doing that, because then the mind is clearer, it's
Mhm,
less loud,
mhm,
and it's less reliant on what it is being told from the outside.
mhm.
I've noticed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I
So
have inner sensibility or awareness or connection or conviction. I don't even know what the right word is,
mhm,
that I can tell.
yes.
Yeah.
So instead of sort of being attached to getting this information from external sources,
Mhm.
right? And then feeling better.
Mhm.
right? Like, okay, I just need to know more. I need to know more. I need more. And then I'm going to feel better.
Mhm.
We're saying that maybe it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Maybe getting internal first,
Maybe feel better first.
feel better first, and then choose what externals you want to bring into your body.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Filter. It's like its own filter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it reduces the need for it.
Mhm.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're clearer.
Mhm.
We're more in the moment. We can see things without all of the fogginess that we
Yeah.
tend to just run around with.
Yeah. It filters out what is actually BS. It's kind of what we're talking about here, right? It doesn't, the stories that we could grab onto as real, you recognize that they aren't, and they just kind of go by
Mhm.
because you recognize what is real, right? And our bodies know they're these repositories from the moment we're born, even before we're born. They're these repositories for all of these things working together.
Mhm.
And what we're talking about is calling on everyone to kind of return to that awareness that your body's a really important part of this process. And in fact, it's the starting point. If you want to, have less stress, less BS, and more quiet and stillness that isn't boring. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't need that to be boring.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about is, just being able to know, like, okay, if I'm gonna be exposed to something externally over and over
Mhm.
and over again, and my body's going to kinda sort of imprint those things,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm getting this information, I can't unhear it.
Mhm.
My body wants to do something with it.
Right.
And if we're just willy-nilly exposing ourselves to whatever is around us,
Yeah.
then our body has to manage that
That's right.
or bottle it up
Mhm.
or, stick it in the hip crease that's going to tighten and create tension in that area of the body
That's right.
or avoid, distract, escape, all the things that
Mhm.
might seem to be protective.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to deal with it at some point because the body's going to hold it.
It is. And if that sounds like esoteric out there, think about it this way. If you were laying under a heat lamp and getting a suntan, you wouldn't stay under there for 6 hours.
Mm-mm.
You'd step away from it after a while, right? If you go to the gym, you're not going to lift weights for 6 straight hours. You're not even going to do it for 3 straight hours because your body's going to tell you when it's done. And if you were to ignore it and then lead yourself to injury, that would be nonsensical. So why is it not equally nonsensical to not do these things when it comes to our internal, our emotional, that the with the nervous system, paying attention to that? It's the same thing.
Mhm.
So what we things we would never allow to do to our physical bodies in that sense, we seemingly can allow in the name of more information, more control. We'll give it a beating internally that we would never let it take externally.
And you think that's because we're not really correlating
Yeah.
that in the information that we're processing in the
Mhm.
brain as impacting the
We
body?
aren't. I don't. I mean, I can speak for myself more authoritatively, obviously, than anything else. I never thought that way. It never occurred to me, despite knowing all those things, and I wasn't laying under heat lamps or, lifting weights for 6 hours a day. It never occurred to me that what I was pouring through my brain in an effort to control things or prove something or be useful, whatever message I was telling myself, it never occurred to me that it was having a direct effect on my entire being through my body,
It's like you were living from right here, your
under the
chin
chin.
to the top of your head, like
Yep.
that was you. That was
Yep.
the total experience of
Yeah.
you right here, and
Oh, yeah. I used to think my body was just the vessel that kept my brain and let it move around, right? It was my brain's car. It took my brain places. That's all it was for. It never occurred to me that it was a part of this larger thing. Now, and I don't know if other people, look
yeah,
at it
yeah,
that way or not, but I wasn't taking care of it,
yeah.
right? And I never had made any connection to the struggles I had in taking care of my physical health
Mhm.
with what I was, with these BS stories that I was telling myself, with all these motivations, because we are coming back to, in that sense, why are we doing what we're doing?
Yes.
Why are we telling ourselves what we're telling ourselves about how we should be or What does it mean? I have to be active, or I have to be busy, or I have to do this. It never occurred to me that the answers would be better and easier if I stepped back from those things and got into that integrated state of just softening and being with the body, to the point now where my body, I'm paying attention to more and more first, or I'm more aware of it first in a given moment, rather than the argument I might need to make, or like the information I need to get, or
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's a
And
much better place to be.
and so what do you notice about giving, your body some of the power? What do you notice that you're naturally, organically doing different without even having to really kind of think about it?
I am if I'm aware of that and I'm talking with somebody, it's so much easier to connect with them and to listen to them, right? Without an agenda, or without, having a debate, just to hold that space. If I'm on my own, whatever's coming into my mind, it's easier for me to filter through, as we talked about before, what might warrant attention and what doesn't.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm looking for what I need to do next, because I've got a lot going on, it's easier to discern where the next best step will be for me. And I I fall asleep faster. I stay asleep longer. I make better choices for my food.
Mhm.
I'm more motivated to go get exercise. It's
It's
pretty much
just
everything.
yeah, and it's just a natural.
Natural, so much more natural.
I know for myself, all of those things, I experience that too, and also, like, just having a different level of trust in myself, in
Oh,
my
yeah.
body, like, "Oh, I feel this thing in my body," and not that it's an ache or pain, but it's sort of like, "Oh, some kind of information," and I trust it,
Mhm.
as opposed to having to think my way around it,
Yeah,
or rationalize it, or
or go through it.
right, overanalyze it, or
Mhm.
or or try to get away from it.
Oh, man, that's a big one for me,
Mhm,
trying to get away.
mhm,
Mhm. Yeah, it's really true. It's an I guess it's an awareness. This is where language starts to fail, right? Because it's something it's why we've said so many times, if you can practice the softening, the deep breathing into the belly, and let the emotions kind of fill that space and recognize that it's okay with them, you start to experience something, and that's really kind of where it is. It's really tough to describe.
it is, and the really important thing is we've gotta give ourselves space from the BS stories, right?
Totally.
We are overrun by them, and that's part of
Mhm.
what we end up talking about, because that's a reality. We're overrun by these stories,
Mhm.
and we've got to get to a place of at least being open to considering that we might wanna choose, if we want to, choose something different.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful about that question. Does it have to be a problem? Because if you say, yes, it does, then you're making the choice,
Mhm,
and it takes it out of the realm of inevitable or just the way it is.
mhm,
And just that very recognition, even if I never answer the question,
mhm.
there have been many times you and I have had conversations where you've asked me, does that need to be a problem? And I've never answered the question because I didn't really need to, because what I needed was the space to let go of that energy. And those BS stories tend to go away, and I don't need to have an answer. I can be okay
Mhm.
with that. Happens so often,
Mm.
right? And it's worth asking about just about anything.
Yeah.
Anything that's ratcheting us up,
Mm.
to pause and go, okay, is there stimulation going on here? And does this need to be a problem? Even if it feels crappy,
Mhm.
does it
Yes.
need to be a problem?
Mhm. And that question also allows for the stress response to come down a
Mhm.
little bit, sort
Mhm.
of like, do I need, because a problem creates reactivity
Yep.
in the stress response.
Yep.
So if we're making up problems all day long, this
Mhm.
isn't going exactly how I wanted it to. This is, I need to have the answer and I don't have the answer. Like, we're activating our stress response just by those thought
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah. And that process fills us up with energy that there then can't be spent on other things.
Mhm.
It preoccupies, it freezes,
Yeah.
or it leads us in destructive directions if we go with the fight or with the flight. It's interesting what opens up for me in terms of possibility, not because something miraculous happens, it's just I'm in a better space to be spending my time and my energy doing more things that are helpful for me than I would otherwise.
You don't need instant relief.
No.
When we're ratcheted up, we at some point need instant relief.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's just the body is saying, I need
Yep.
relief.
Yep.
And then we're going to things
Yep.
that allow for instant relief, but don't.
But don't. It's more numbing than anything else.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's the equivalent of, if you have a broken bone, you're just taking, Advil to kill the pain for a while. It's not healing the bone.
Mm.
Yeah. And that can be just about anything, right? I mean, we can throw everything into that avoidance, into that, into that numbing. And it's destructive, whether we're talking about overindulgence on TV or overindulgence on anything else, or coping mechanisms that get us away from recognizing that that's what's happening.
Yeah. And numbing out isn't renewing. Numbing out is still a stressed out state.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a freeze state.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the illusion, of course, is that that's helping us relax.
Yes.
That's helping us recharge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's a huge BS story.
Yes.
So, wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have about 10 threads in there that we could pick up on next time. We'll certainly pick one.
We'll pick one.
We'll
or
pick
two.
or two to go with. There's plenty of them. So I hope you all found that helpful and interesting, and dare I say, stimulating? Maybe not.
Or boring.
Not boring.
It's okay.
Whatever it is. We won't make up a story about that.
Nope.
All right. But whatever the case is, thank you so much for spending some time with us on this episode of Breaking Up with RBS. Make sure you follow our Facebook group at Breaking Up with RBS, and to get content in between, as well as announcements of upcoming stuff. And we got a few things cooking.
We've got some upcoming stuff.
Got some things cooking. So you might want to join that and follow that. And certainly subscribe to our YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast provider. Thank you so much for doing so. And thanks in advance for sharing it with your friends and your family. So until next time, I am JDK Winnikin.
And I am Tawny Sanabria.
And we will see you next time with more stuff to break up with.
Yes, we will.
See ya.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.
Scusa che è Gianio.
I'm in my groove. Here we go. Break a friend. I need it up front.